Okay, and I just started our recording, and I wanted to put that in the chat. I didn't do that. Are y'all getting feedback?
A little bit.
Let me see if I move the computer, if that makes a difference. How about now?
It does. I'm not hearing any feedback. I think you're good.
Okay, it may have been the distance of the computer with the phone. So I'm probably gonna be out of the screen a couple of times as I have the computer like behind me.
Okay.
But people are in. We have looks like about 4 or 5 people in currently. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You know, I'm always excited when I get to see faces. So thanks for that. Can you get mommy a pair of gloves too? Thank you. We're going to give people just a few minutes, just to get in so we're not starting without anybody. Thank you. I need another one. Thank you. It's 11:02. We're going to give everybody till 11:05 to join in with us this morning. How's everybody feeling this Saturday? I hope everybody's doing well. Feeling good. Get some of that sunshine on. It's chilly outside, but the sun is beautiful. Yep, I see it, baby. I see it. I want you to come over here on this side, so when we start to juice, if you're standing on that side, people won't be able to see you, okay?
We're going to give people about another minute.
Okay, doke.
What I don't know is if you have to keep Facebook like up the whole time.
It's still showing live on my end and recording, so.
So I'm not going to close it.
Yeah, maybe leave it open.
Yeah.
You can stand over here.
So glad that you're so excited to help. So we have a special guest, everybody. We won't introduce him until we introduce ourselves, but we have a special guest that I'm very excited that he'll be joining us today. It's
So
11.
is it 11?
Yes.
Okay. All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is Pamia from Black Girls with Green Thumbs, and this is Xavier. Xavier, you want to say hi to everybody? This is my son, Xavier. He's going to be helping us demonstrate how to juice today.
And good morning. My name is Latiana Tab. I am the other co-founder of Black Girls with Green Thumbs. We are an organization that encourages gardening in your homes and communities to heal, nourish, and learn. So we've been doing these at-home cooking classes since essentially the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic, when all of our programs got in-person programs got shut down. So we wanted to still create an opportunity to engage with people and to continue to teach about gardening and plant-based cooking. So up until October, we were doing garden-themed classes for these Green Thumbs at Home classes. We are now transitioning through the winter to begin plant-based cooking. So welcome you all to our first Green Thumbs at Home plant-based cooking theme classes.
Yes, absolutely. Very excited about it on this end because this is something I do outside of Black Girls with Green Thumbs. Me and my son, actually, we juice very often. So again, he's very excited this morning to be helping out. It's one of his favorite things to do. So if anybody that's following along with us at home has children, feel free to welcome them in to join in our activity today. It's very family friendly. So a little bit about the recipe that we're actually making today and why we are making it. We are actually making an apple pear homemade cider. And the reason we thought about doing this is because typically we've done juicing classes in person in the past, and they've been great. We've done like fruit juices and things like that. But one of the things that I kind of thought about was the fact that, you know, it's coming into flu season and we're still dealing with this coronavirus pandemic. And at the same time, it's the fall. So although juices are great all year round, as it gets chillier, a lot of us want some kind of warm comfort food and drinks. So I thought that cider would be a really good activity to do for you all today. One of the things that I love about cider and fresh juice is the fact that it gives us so many enzymes and antioxidants and nutrients. And those are things that many of us tend to miss out on as it gets cold in the wintertime. It's a lot easier to, you know, access fresh fruits and vegetables when it's warm, especially if you're growing from your home and you have your own home garden. But sometimes people don't like to garden or, you know, be outside during the wintertime. So it's a little less frequent that people are able to, you know, get that fresh stuff in. So today we're going to be using all fresh ingredients for our apple pear homemade cider. And I hope that you guys really enjoy it. One cute little fact that I did find that I wanted to bring up before I forget, because I know it's going to go out of my mind if I don't mention it now. But cider actually, especially this recipe, is supposed to boast the same amount of antioxidants as a glass of wine. So it's something that kids can enjoy with a lot of antioxidants, that's warm and nutritious, that's non-alcoholic. But for you parents out there at home, if you do like this recipe, you can always add maybe like a splash of bourbon or something and make it an adult drink if you like that. I'm pretty sure that it would be really, really delicious. All right, so you all set, La?
Yeah, and one little tidbit that I wanted to add is that another reason we chose this recipe in particular was because the fruit that we're using are all in season. Apples and pears are fall fruits, and they grow natively in our, I shouldn't say natively, they grow in our region really well during this time of year. So we wanted to make sure that we were choosing and selecting produce that's actually grown in season.
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up, because another fun fact about actually everything that we're using in this recipe, everything comes from a tree. So for example, we have apples, we have pears, and we have oranges in this recipe, as well as cloves, cinnamon, and nutmeg. So each component of this recipe is either a fruit, or it's a seed, or it's actually the bark. Many people don't know that cinnamon is actually the bark from a cinnamon tree. So all of these ingredients are tree-related ingredients. All right, Xavier, we're all set. If you want to come over, we're going to start juicing. Okay, so for everybody at home, we're just gonna go over the list of ingredients for our recipe today. You guys are gonna need 6 fresh apples. You're going to need 6 pears and 2 oranges. You guys are also gonna need some cinnamon, either the powder or the sticks. I actually have the sticks today. We're gonna be using nutmeg. We're gonna be using brown sugar, as well as some whole cloves. So I'm hoping everybody has all their ingredients together because we're gonna start right now. All right, come on, baby. So I'm just gonna show you guys what we have prepared already. So we went ahead and we pre-cut all of our fruit. So if you guys can follow along with the recipe that we already sent out with you, you're actually gonna cut all of your fruits into quarters. So for example, this is the pears that I have. We're using Bartlett pears in our household today, and some Gala apples. I'll show you what they look like, cut into 4s as well, if you guys can see that. And then we also have our oranges. I think these are Valencia oranges that we're using today. I got pretty cheaply, all the ingredients actually, at Produce Junction a few days ago. So what I'm gonna have Xavier do is start to juice all of our pears and our apples. So this juice is actually going to be the base for the recipe. If you guys can actually reference your recipe now, you'll see that it calls for just any apple juice or any pear juice. But what I found from personal experience is the fresher, the better. So instead of using store-bought apple juice or pear juice today, we're actually going to be juicing it all fresh. So Xavier, you can go ahead and turn on the juicer. And I'm gonna adjust the camera so you guys can see what he's doing over here. So a little bit about our juicer. I'm hoping you guys can see it well. I'm gonna move the brown sugar out of the way. What we have over here is actually what we consider to be a slow juicer, also known as a cold press juicer. What I personally like about it is that it doesn't have one of those motors and blades. So you tend to retain more nutrients from this kind of juicer than any other juicer. It still works, you know, really well, maybe not as quickly as the other juicers, but it's worth it because you're retaining a lot more of the nutrients. So we have our pears here. Like I said, they're cut up into a little bit smaller pieces than we're going to use for the actual recipe for the cider, just so we can fit them inside of the juicer. But Xavier is going to go ahead and juice all of those things for us.
So, and then I have a different type of juicer over here, Camilla, with me. Can you all see my screen when I'm talking? I think so.
Yeah, yes, we can see.
I have an electric juicer. So as Camilla described, like this one is motorized by a blade. So I will lose some of the nutrients, but it's still going to be more nutritious and more fresh than your store-bought juice. So there's so many different ways that we can get at health and wellness. And so she can't see me. I
think maybe some of the fruits might be blocking a little bit.
Yanni, when you said you couldn't see me, does it mean when you're talking you can't see when I'm talking you can't see the screen, or is it the fruit? Camilla, is it popping up when I talk?
Yeah, I can see it. Can anyone else not see it? I can see it for sure.
No, we can't see her.
Okay. Let me try. I know what I can do. I'll just spotlight my video when I'm talking.
Yeah, that's on my end.
Yeah. Because, you know, usually it'll pop up when you're talking, but because of how I have it set up.
Right.
I can see me. Yeah, right?
I can see you.
Okay,
yep.
Great. So I have an electric juicer over here. So as Camilla described, this blade runs through a motor. But as I was saying, the fresher juices that you make at home, they're going to be more nutritious than any store-bought juice that you have. So when you're thinking about preparing to maybe like change your lifestyle towards like more health or more wellness, there are different like price points that you can enter it at. So the juice that I have isn't actually even the entry level one, but I have an entry level one. It's like a Black and Decker that's like $30 or $40. And this one we got from as a gift from a family member that's like a little higher end. And then the slow juicer that Camilla has is a little more pricier, but with that price and with it being slower, you are retaining more nutrients. So we like to show and demonstrate the different types of items or the kitchen tools that we use, and even the different types of like food products that we use that may differ between our households, because we do not want anyone to be deterred or to feel frustrated, because we know that there is a thought or a thought process that selecting healthy foods and eating plant-based can be really expensive, but there are many ways to come at this, and it's affordable and it's definitely worth it for your health.
Yes, absolutely. That's why I wanted to mention like some of the price points that I found the fruit from. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with places like Produce Junction. I usually get most of my produce from there. And you tend to save a lot when you buy in bulk. So for example, like I bought a case of bananas from there a few days ago. An entire 40-pound case of bananas was $12. You know what I mean? So what I usually do is like I'll split whatever fruit I buy when I buy it per case. I freeze half of it, and the other half I use when I'm making fresh recipes. So just to show you guys again, I'm hoping you guys can see what Xavier's doing over here. We have him juicing again our fresh pears, our apples, and the little bit of orange that's in there as well. So I did want to talk to you guys about the nutritional components of the juice and the cider that we're making today. So I know I already mentioned that the antioxidants were a really powerful and huge part about why this homemade cider recipe is so healthy. But apples in particular, they're full of carbohydrates and they're full of water, but they also contain fiber. So the beautiful thing about a cider versus a juice is that a cider is going to be retaining a lot more fiber than just your typical juice would. So your typical juice is going to be just like you see Xavier doing, it's extracting all of the fiber in the pulp and just giving you that water base from the juice along with nutrition and enzymes. But when we're making this cider, we're actually going to be adding whole pieces of fruit as well. And they're going to be cooked over that course of 4 hours that this recipe takes. So what that does is it adds some of that that fiber back into the cider itself. So that's really good for us. And all of our fruit that we're going to be using today, they're very high in vitamin C, especially apples and oranges, pears as well. There's many minerals that you're going to be getting using the fresh juice versus the store-bought. One thing to think about, although store-bought juice can taste great, usually it's loaded with like preservatives and sugar and things of that nature. And what they do is kind of just extend the shelf life of the juice. So it sits there for a long time and you're able to buy it and spend money on it for a long time. But as we know, something that can sit for a long time can't be, unless it's water, 100% natural. It has to have some kind of preservative in it so that it doesn't go bad. So that's one of the things that we kind of always talk about when we do juicing classes, because we want all of those really good nutritious components of our fruits to, actually benefit our bodies. So that's why we're doing a fresh juice versus a store-bought juice. So the pears. Pears are actually one of the most popular fruits in the world. I think on a poll, I think they were like number 2 or 3. And pears have a lot of fiber. They have vitamin C. They're sodium free, and they are actually really low in calories. So again, a really, really good component for a fresh juice or for a cider. Even depending on any health issues you have, even people with diabetes can still enjoy juices and ciders like this in moderation. So the third fruit that we're going to be using today are oranges. And everyone knows that oranges have a lot of vitamin C in them. So for flu and coronavirus, what's going on right now in our season, is going to be something that's going to give you that extra immune boost, especially when it's fresh. I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I just want to keep reiterating that freshness is what's going to get us these nutrients, not just something that we buy from the store. So it looks like we have our first batch of fresh juice that Xavier just made. So again, this is our pear, apple, and orange medley. So we're going to go ahead and put this all to the side and make just a little bit more.
Over here, I have been cutting my apples and pears. I will not run my juicer right now because mine is also going to be louder because of the motor. So at some point, I'll prepare the juice for the cider.
So this recipe, it actually calls for 2.5 gallons of fresh juice. One thing I want you all to consider when you're making this at home is either the size of the pot that you're using or the size of, La, what are you, you said you're using a, you're not.
I'm using a slow cooker.
I'm sorry?
I'm using a slow cooker. So
right. It's like a crock pot, slow cooker. What I found when I made this recipe yesterday was sometimes those aren't large enough to hold a whole gallon of juice, plus the fruits that you're gonna put in it. So what you can do if you find that your pot is too small or your slow cooker is too small, you can just decrease the size of the recipe, either by a quarter or by half, depending on your family size. So I'll show you guys the pot that we're gonna actually be making the cider in today. So this is really good if you wanted to decrease it by half. It's like kind of like your standard size pot. And if you guys at home have a sieve or kind of like one of these mesh strainers, this is going to be really important once everything's done cooking so that you can strain out some of that excess fiber. Oh, so okay. So as we're juicing, we are collecting a lot of the pulp and fiber. As you guys can see, this is like a whole lot of it from the fruits that we've juiced so far. So we're just gonna get rid of that. Some people actually keep this and they use it in their cider, but that's totally up to you guys. Since we're using our own fresh fruits that we already have cut up, we won't need this today. But it doesn't have to go in the trash. It can also be used for compost in your gardens as well. All right, Xavier, we can go ahead and start the juicer back up. So the next set of components that we're going to be using in our juice are those other parts of trees that we talked about. So we have our whole cloves here. We have our ground nutmeg. And we also have our cinnamon sticks. So I know for a lot of folks, if you guys were not able to actually find cinnamon sticks, using just regular ground cinnamon is another option. And so just so you guys know, I actually looked up, you know, the difference in one cinnamon stick to how much ground cinnamon you would need to use. And it's about a 1/4 teaspoon per cinnamon stick. So this recipe calls for 4, so you would use 1 teaspoon in total of ground cinnamon. One thing to keep in mind with the ground cinnamon, however, is that the ground cinnamon tends to be a little bit stronger than the cinnamon sticks. So I wouldn't really use more or apply it too liberally until you taste it first. So I would just start out with that 1/4 measurement, 1/4 teaspoon per stick measurement first, and then, you know, kind of gradually update it from there. So oh, sorry, go ahead, babe.
These are the spices that one thinks of typically when you think about fall. When you think about those smells of fall, nutmeg, cinnamon, cloves, like those are those warm spices. So we've been really excited about this all week, just thinking about like, okay, we're really getting into fall. I think it was rainy Thursday or Friday night, and I was like, dang, I could have had this tonight. This would have been great. Yep. So nutmeg, I have ground nutmeg over here as well. And this spice is a great source of minerals like copper, potassium, calcium, iron. Potassium is an important component of cell and body fluids that help control heart rate and blood pressure. And the human body uses minerals like manganese and copper to help process antioxidants. Iron is also essential for red blood cell production. And Pamela mentioned antioxidants a few times. Do you want to I don't recall if you went into detail about antioxidants. Can you talk about that, Camille?
Sure. So one cool thing about antioxidants and how they help our bodies is that these are things that are found in things that are fresh and natural. And what they tend to do is bind to things we call free radicals in our bodies. So to explain what antioxidants are, you kind of got to know what free radicals are. So these are things that may be like, pollution in the environment, or maybe a heavy metal that might be in our system. And what antioxidants kind of do is they bind to those so that, when we either sweat or we urinate or, however we expel things from our body, they can bind to those negative things and push them out of our systems. So that's why antioxidants are really, really important for us. And the more fresh fruits and vegetables that we consume, the more antioxidants are going to build up in our bodies and be able to keep us healthier. Again, I can't stress how important it is specifically right now, because we're entering this flu season that we go through every year, but we have the additional component of coronavirus going on right now, which we all want to protect ourselves from. So that's definitely something to consider. So anytime you guys hear that word antioxidant, that's what we're talking about.
Thank you.
No problem at all. And we're actually almost finished creating almost a whole gallon of juice. So I'm just going to show you guys what it looks like so far. So this is what we juiced so far. It kind of just looks like orange juice a little bit, because orange, it has that color that kind of takes over that clear looking juice from the pears and the apples. But this is what fresh juice looks like. And I'm going to put it up a little bit closer so you guys can see. It's usually thick. As it sits longer, it'll separate. And sometimes you'll see some of that pulp at the bottom and, the clearer part of the water base from the fruits at the top. But if you guys have never seen fresh juice or tasted it, this is a really good opportunity to do that, because this cider is totally amazing.
When I think about fresh juice, or how fresh juice looks, I should say, it reminds me of what we think about as cider. Like this time of year when you buy apple cider, cider is really thick. And that's what we kind of should be expecting when we have fresh juice. And Pamia, do you know how we get to the point? Well, it's from concentrate, I know. But the juice that we have in the stores is never really this thick, like our regular commercial juices. So do you know how they get it as thin?
Yeah, so those juices, they go through a process called pasteurization. And what happens is it's kind of put into like a centrifuge and it's spinned around and it's heated up. And what that does is it kind of sterilizes the juice, which is good in one way, because again, it extends the shelf life and you're able to consume it for a longer amount of time. But when you're heating it up, it's also destroying a lot of enzymes that are in fresh juice that make it so good for you in the first place. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Did that answer the question?
It did. No, I was just looking at all of my cut up juices. My cut up fruit. Like, I'm going to have to make my juice at the end.
Yes. And so when we kind of promote this class, we were talking also about doing a seed saving component. And we always talk about seed saving in particular. It's so important right now because so many fruits and vegetables are being marketed to our communities that are seed free or seedless, they're usually called. And while it may be convenient when you're eating them or you're making recipes from them to not have to remove those seeds, it's an important thing to think about what that means for the future. So seeds are so important because it gives us the opportunity to grow from things that we already have. So if fruits and vegetables are starting to become more readily available without seeds, it kind of puts us in a position where we're not going to be able to grow things for ourselves unless we have seeds already stored. So what Latiana and I try to always do for ourselves and talk about all the time is how important seed saving is. It's actually the future of fruits and vegetables in the world and the future of humans in the world, because we need fruits and vegetables to survive. So seed saving is just like a really important part of life for us as we deal with, the work we do in gardens and in the health field. So it's just something to consider if it's something you're interested in. We always encourage people to research it more and see how you can incorporate it into your lifestyle or your family's lifestyle. With that being said, the fruits and vegetables sorry, what'd you say?
Yeah, I was just going to transition into some seed saving.
Oh, yeah.
I've been slowly closing out my garden for the summer, and I've been collecting I grew 2 different types of beans this year. So I did, it's called an asparagus bean or a yard-long bean, and then the other ones that are more common are these Kentucky green beans. So as the summer has been going on, I've been collecting some seeds in these little baby food jars. I have a 1-year-old. I have plenty of jars. And how I do collect the seeds from the beans is I just allow them to dry out. And as they dry, it makes the seed pods. It makes the pods much easier to pull apart. And in each of these pods are the beans that we are more familiar with. Let me see. Here we go. So beans are actually really easy to save the seeds because they're so large. But we also save seeds from our herbs, even from fruits. So Camille was about to transition into talking about saving seeds from one of the fruits that we are using in our recipe today.
So yes, the 3 fruits and vegetables that we're actually, just fruits, sorry, that we're using in our recipe today, again, are the apples, the pears, and the oranges. So me and Latiana talked about this recipe in the class. We kind of recognize that, like citrus fruits are, not really something that, grows really well in our region. It's more of like a tropical kind of a plant. So saving seeds from oranges, although, it can be a good exercise and it's always good to have those seeds, it may not be something that, people are as interested in right now, especially considering, how long trees take to grow. So when it comes to the other 2 fruits, the apples and the pears, they actually have a very long process when it comes to seed saving. So some seeds you're able to literally just extract from the fruit or the vegetable, and you can either clean it and dry it and store it in a glass jar, and it's just that simple. Some of the other seeds cannot be processed that way. So apples and pears are actually an example of this. So if I was to just take apple seeds or pear seeds from my fruit and just sit off the side and put them in a glass jar, what would actually happen is they wouldn't be viable in the future because we haven't put them through the process of cleaning them, of drying them. You actually have to soak them and refrigerate them. There's a whole process. So that was one of the reasons we decided just to focus on a couple other fruits versus those for today's class. Just a little bit easier for, beginners. So we have our last batch of our fresh juice that we're gonna pour into our gallon container. And we are actually gonna be ready to start our cider. Latiana, how's your juice making going over there?
Start.
Oh yeah, you said the engine was gonna be too loud, the motor, right?
Let me try. Y'all tell me if it's too loud, but I have a feeling it's going to be very, very loud. But as I'm going, there are a couple questions that people have had specifically about seeding while juicing.
Okay.
The question was, do you include the seed while juicing, or do you take them out?
So typically I take them out. So when I cut up an apple, what I'll do, especially when I quarter them, I'll cut them into 4 different pieces. And when you cut those into 4 different pieces, I probably would be able to demonstrate it. Let me see if I have another apple. Ready to go. It looks like all my apples are cut up, but I can do it with an orange just to show you all.
Okay, I'm going to go back on you.
Okay. Let me move this out of the way so you guys can see what I'm doing here. So typically what I will do is I will have it and then quarter it. So we're cutting it into 4 pieces. And remember, we're cutting this orange as if it were an apple. And all I do at that point, usually like the apple will just have some seeds right there. You can literally just take your knife, go like this and cut that seed part out and have a quarter that's completely seedless. And you don't have to worry about that. So some people don't worry about the seeds when they're juicing apples and pears. One thing that I always think about is just thinking about, just me learning about different components of fruits and vegetables. Apple seeds actually have something called arsenic in them. And if you guys aren't familiar with arsenic, arsenic is actually poisonous to the human body, but only in certain amounts. So eating a few apple seeds here and there is not going to hurt you necessarily, but it is something to consider if you're making a really large batch, or if you just don't want it in your in your juice at all. I would keep the seeds out. And it's the same thing for pears. Very, very low levels of arsenic, but it's something to think about and consider.
All right, I'm going to run my juicer, so y'all let me know.
And someone just wrote in orange seeds. As far as I know, orange seeds don't have anything in them that can hurt us in any kind of way. But again, if you want to save those seeds, that's something you can put off to the side and pull them out, but it's not necessary. Orange seeds I wouldn't really worry about. And honestly, in this day and age, finding an orange that has seeds in it is few and far between. I think that's a very unfortunate thing. I think all fruits and vegetables should have seeds in them, but I would take them out. But it's totally up to you. Orange seeds won't really hurt you.
So my juicer isn't too loud, and as I was doing it, I think that it will be good for you all to see the difference in how these juicers operate. So I myself, I'm actually not going to take the seeds out of all the fruit. This juicer says you don't have to de-seed or take skins off and stuff, so it'll collect in this top part of the juicer. So what can be is her pulp and stuff, it comes out the other side. This one just collects in a basin. And you can see the difference in the speed with the juicers. So I'll run it.
Someone asked what is the brand of juicer you're using? I think that was the question when I saw it pop up.
Yeah, just what slow juicer are you using? So Camilla, what's the brand of yours?
Oh, that was for me. So my brand, sorry, it's called the Aobasi Slow Juicer, and I will show you guys a close-up of it. This is what it looks like. I actually got this one off of Amazon. I think I got it on Prime Day, a year or two ago. It was.
I don't think that the spotlight was on yours.
Oh, were you guys not able to see it? I can show you again.
I just put the video on yours, I guess, was you.
Okay. All right. So I'll show you guys again. So this is what the Aobasi looks like. They make a couple different things. I think they make juicers and, other home kitchen products. But I got this one for, I think, about $130. And I use this juicer very, very, very heavily. I can't stress that enough. It's always held up. It's never given me a problem. It's never broken down. I've never had to replace any parts. I've had it for about a year and a half, almost 2 years now. And I juice every day. Me and my son juice every single morning. So it just shows you the longevity of this juicer. Again, it is a slow juicer. So I will show you all again, just this component here. You probably can't see it because there's a lot of pulp backed up in it right now. But basically this mechanism, all it's doing is pushing by force a piece of fruit into this kind of mesh strainer here. And that's how the juice is extracted from the vegetable or the fruit that you're trying to process. What that does, just by the sheer force and no heating, is it retains those enzymes and nutrients we talked about earlier.
Yeah, let's get into, we have about 20 minutes left and we want to leave some time for questions. So let's get into this and then we'll open the floor and we can probably spend a little more time on seed saving, and we can share some nutrition information about the different spices that we're using.
Yes. Okay. So can everybody see me? Is the spotlight back on me?
Yes. Hold on, Camille, I can't hear you. There you go.
Okay. You got, okay. I don't know how I muted myself. All right. Sorry about that. All right. So we're over here at the stove, finally. What I'm going to do is put a low light under my pot. I'm going to put that on low. And before I add my juice, I'm going to add those cut up pieces of fruit that we talked about in the beginning. So this recipe again called for 6 apples, 6 pears, and then 2 oranges. If you have a smaller pot like I do, you can decrease that by half. So that would be 3 apples, 3 pears, and 1 orange. So that's what I have here. And we're going to go ahead, and if you guys are following along at home, you can go ahead and add your quartered fruits. Again, these don't have any seeds in them. I made sure all the seeds were out of them. We're gonna go ahead and pop all of them inside our pot with our low light going. Next up, we are going to start to add our juice. So I have a gallon here, but since we decreased it by half, I'm only gonna use half of that. And it smells so good. Gonna pour that in. And you guys will notice that when you're using pear juice, it's a lot thicker than apple juice or orange juice. Those are much more water-based fruits. Pears don't have as much water component in them as the other ones do. So it's going to be thicker, almost like remember those canned juices we used to have when we were kids that our parents would make juice out of? They were like really thick. Yeah. They're kind of like that when you pour it out. It's gonna look very similar. So next up, I'm just gonna start to mix this up and move it around. And if your pot is large enough, you can add a little bit more juice because it's gonna cook up really nicely. And we're gonna let Tiana talk about the next components right now, and I'll add them in as she goes through them.
Okay, so we already discussed nutmeg. So did you put your nutmeg in yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay. So Camilla's going to add nutmeg first to the pot. And as a reminder, the nutmeg that we both have is ground nutmeg. And nutmeg whole is basically like little, like they're little seeds. Like if you think about like how peppercorns are shaped, so nutmegs are round seed looking spices. So Camilla is going to add, I think, 2 teaspoons of nutmeg.
Yeah, so this recipe, if you have whole nutmegs, you can just add 1. Most people have ground. It's a little bit harder to find them in the whole form. And it calls for 2 teaspoons. But since I've decreased my recipe by half, I'm just going to put 1 in. If you guys are doing the full recipe today, feel free to do 2. So this is 1 teaspoon going right in.
All right, great. And the next thing that Camilla is going to add into our cider is cinnamon. And cinnamon is a favorite of many people. We use it in so many different recipes. You tend to see the whole cinnamon sticks less, but we love the look of cinnamon sticks, and it actually lends itself to give more flavor over time when you use a cinnamon stick in a recipe like this. So cinnamon is an ancient spice that comes from the bark of several species of evergreen trees. You see Camilla's cinnamon sticks, and she's gonna show you when she pulls it out of the jar. And if you're unfamiliar with evergreen trees, those are the trees that stay green all year round. So they come from different species of bark from evergreen trees. Cinnamon is a good source of calcium, potassium, magnesium, phosphorus, vitamin K, and vitamin A. Cinnamon is harvested from the peels of the inner bark of the trees, the cinnamon trees. The peels are left out to dry and they curl up naturally. And they're also known as cinnamon sticks. And ground cinnamon comes from grinding up these sticks into powder, and they can be processed and they can make either the powder that we're more familiar with, cinnamon oil, extract, and other products.
And this cinnamon smells amazing. It smells so good. Again, the sticks for me is just like, I don't know. I mean, I do know about it, but the taste, you know, we talked about, you know, the ground cinnamon having like a more potent taste. But as far as like the aroma and the scent, like from these cinnamon sticks, they smell amazing. And again, when you're making the recipe, and when you're actually straining it out and you have those sticks left over, it's so pretty to add those as a garnish to your finished product also.
Yes, and the last spice we is going to put into the cider mixture our cloves. And are you using whole cloves, Mia?
I am using whole cloves today. Yep.
I have whole cloves as well. So many herbs and spices are high in antioxidants, as you've heard us say. And according to today's dietitian, just a half a teaspoon of ground cloves is said to contain more antioxidants than a half a cup of blueberries. 1 teaspoon of ground cloves also provides 63% of the daily value of manganese. So we are not only preparing a delicious fall beverage, but we are preparing one that is rich in minerals and antioxidants and vitamins and nutrients. So, you know, even if you can treat yourself, add your little splash of bourbon that Pamela talked about. We have some spice rum in my house that I know that the adults here are going to enjoy.
Yes. And also keep in mind also, you're not going to add that bourbon until it's completely done. So
Yes.
not bourbon in just yet. It will be after you're finished your cider. So I'm going to show you all what this looks like so far. Let's see if I can flip my screen. Now, how beautiful is this?
Yes.
Doesn't it look great? So again, this is our whole cloves. We measured it out. We have our cinnamon sticks inside. We have our ground nutmeg. And obviously we have all of our fruits. So another thing you guys want to make sure that you do after you have your light underneath, we're going to keep that light very low because this is going to cook for about 4 hours. One thing you want to make sure you do is place a lid on top. This will keep the heat consistent and everything cooking exactly the way that it should if you're doing it on the stove top. If you guys have decided to do this in your crock pot, I will put it on the lower setting. And if you have a crock pot where, and I think most of them, you can adjust the number of hours. You don't even have to worry about watching it. You can just put it on 4 hours, maybe 5 hours, depending on, you know, how hot or how not hot your crock pot gets. And it's just really a really simple, easy recipe to follow. After you guys have cooked this down for the 4 hours, this is when that mesh strainer is actually going to come into play. So after this is cooked and you've noticed that all of your fruits have been softened, they've gotten really soft, the skin is falling off, you're going to mix everything really well with your spoon again, and you're going to let it cool down. Very, very, very important component. You do not want to burn yourself by dealing with a very, very hot liquid. So you'll let that cool down for an hour or so. After it's cooled down, you can put that into another pitcher like we had the first amount of juice in. And you can use your mesh strainer to strain out any of that extra stuff. So it'll be the cinnamon sticks and maybe some seeds and maybe some pulp and maybe some skin or what have you. And that's how you're going to strain it out for your final product, which is your cider. So one thing I wanted to talk to you all about is I made this recipe yesterday so that I can have some finished cider to show you guys so you can just physically see how it looks at the end. And I didn't follow that step. So what I did was I left this too hot before I put it in the refrigerator, and it cracked the glass and it was all over. So learn from me and don't do that. It was a mistake that I made.
She thought that it cooled off.
I didn't think that it cooled off.
Word to touch, but she knows typically we would leave it overnight so it can be fully cool, but she didn't. And then we had consequences.
Right. So learn from me, and don't do that. Again, even if it seems cool, I just leave it out overnight if you're making it during the day. Because as we know, like glass expands and contracts depending on, heat or cold. So if you're using a glass container, that's something that can happen. So learn from me.
So we have a question in the chat, and we're at the end of this, ladies. It looks like all women today. So if you don't mind, we'd love to see everyone's faces. And so if y'all want to talk to us, take your videos off, you can unmute yourself. But there is a question from Victoria who asks, do you prefer the cassia cinnamon or Ceylon?
I'm actually not familiar with the different species, if that's what she's referring to. Do you know anything about that, La? That's definitely something interesting to research, because I know there's a couple different species of cinnamon, and it looks like, let me just look at the container I have here. It doesn't even look like, it just says organic cinnamon that I got from Target. So it doesn't even look like I would know based on, what I purchased at the store. Could you tell us a little bit about that if you have any experience? You can feel free to take yourself off mute.
I don't have any experience, but I'm told, because I work with a lot of cancer patients, that Ceylon cinnamon is better. So I just want to know what you guys preferred.
Interesting. And I wonder if that has something to do with the antioxidants.
Probably. That would be.
Or the level of antioxidants.
I just bought some cinnamon stick today, and it doesn't.
Does yours have anything about where it's sourced from or the species that it's sourced from?
Well, it said, but this is in Spanish, so no. Because I was going to say, oh, it says this, but that's just probably what cinnamon means in Spanish. So no, it doesn't specify what species it is.
Okay, yeah, that's really interesting. I'm actually going to look that up, and I'm wondering, I do know, like, I've worked with cancer patients in the past before too, and I know sometimes doctors will say, well, well, be careful about your nutrient intake or what have you, and, different, ways that can affect the treatment. But I'm definitely going to look into that because that's good information to know.
Ebony, are you a cider at home?
Yes, trying to. Egypt is like doing her own thing over here. She already dumped in extra whole cloves, so we'll see how this works out.
It's gonna be a little spicy.
You know how cloves are. Like, cloves are like beautiful. You know what I mean? So like maybe you can out with some extra juice.
Yes. I've already started like trying to scoop some of it out, because as soon as I turn my back, she like just turned it away.
Has anyone else been following along and actually making the recipe? Well, that's all good, because I'm hoping that you guys were able to at least watch what we did today and figure out what might work for you and your family. And even think about making the recipe your own, you know what I mean? Like, so what we use today is not necessarily what you have to use for a cider recipe. There's so many other fruits that, you may like or, dislike to, add or take away from the recipe. So feel free to experiment and try to make it your own. Like here at home, my son, he loves pomegranates. So maybe the next time we do this recipe, we might try to do some pomegranate seeds or, add some other fruits. Ebony, did you guys juice or did you use like store-bought juice?
We had to use store-bought juice, unfortunately.
No, it's all good.
Yeah, because I kind of forgot about the ingredients at the last minute. I had to like, okay, Instacart, send me something. So yeah, but I saved the recipe so that we can do it with fresh juice next time. But I think I did did y'all put in the brown sugar from the recipe or no?
No, we totally missed that component. And the reason is because it does call for it in the recipe, but I never put extra sugar in my stuff because I'm just like,
okay.
But yes, thank you for that up, Ebony. This recipe actually calls for a 1/2 cup of brown sugar.
Okay.
So use that to make it really nice and extra sweet, for you guys, but it's not a necessity. Again, this has a natural fruit sugars in it. So if anybody's concerned about, additional sugar for their family or their children or themselves due to health issues, feel free to omit that to have a pure juice.
Thanks.
And I think somebody put another question up. Let me look. Oops.
Keisha had said that she was planning to make it for Thanksgiving, so that's the perfect time.
Oh, yeah. This is a perfect Thanksgiving juice, especially if you want to add that bourbon in for, you know, yourself or your family. I'm sure it'd be a hit with everybody.
So there's a question about storage for the cider. How long can we store it?
So if you tend to want to have this recipe or make it ahead of time, you can actually freeze this and store it for months at a time. I would say safely keep the flavor up to 2 or 3 months. However, if you're enjoying this fresh and you're just refrigerating it, I would say maximum about 4 days. And the reason for that is because even if you use store-bought juice, you still have the fresh fruits that you were using. And this hasn't gone through the process of pasteurization. So again, we're going back to that double-edged sword situation where it's much healthier for you because you're getting all those enzymes and nutrients, but on the back end, you're not able to store it as long because it's going to start to break down because it's real, it's fresh, and it's natural. And anything that's real, fresh, and natural is gonna start to break down.
And that's why it's important to think about the quantity and the size of the recipe when you prepare it, because if you know that you're not going to consume as much, then you can start to do your calculations and just reduce the recipe so you're not being wasteful, and you're also not tempting yourself to store it longer than you should and run the risk of being sick.
Yes, exactly.
So we have about 4 minutes left. I want to spend some time and talk to you about our funders. If you notice, I put in the chat a link to a survey. So I'm going to share my screen. Give me a second. Come on, let's cooperate.
Looks like it just popped up.
Yeah. So today's program is funded through an award from the National Network of Libraries of Medicine, the Mid-Atlantic region, and they are a partner of the All of Us program, and that's that slide that you see. The National Institutes of Health All of Us research program has the goal of building the most diverse collection of data of its kind in health research. And essentially, it is called Precision Health Medicine. So if you're interested in learning more about this research program, you can go to the All of Us website, and it's joinallofus.org/NLM, and I'll add a link to that in the chat. And we also, there's another source that we use to gather nutrition information that we share with you all, and it's called Medline Plus. Medline Plus is an online database that's similar to, a lot of us are more familiar with WebMD, but it's an online health information resource for patients and family and friends from the National Library of Medicine. And I like Medline Plus because I am certain about the source of where it comes from, and there's such a broad range of topics that's available on here. So it's a broad range of health topics, but then also it comes from different sources. You can find research articles, you can find regular health magazines. It's available in over 45 different languages. So it's a really rich data source if you are looking to delve in pretty deep with health information and gathering different information about nutrition, and then all sorts of nutrition and other health information. So we always have to shout out our funders. They make it possible for us to do this with you all each month. And we also recently received a grant from
A world.
Yes, thank you. Can you tell them? Oh, here we go. Because I'm how do I get out of this share? We received a grant from a well-fed world, which will allow us to expand our online cooking classes beyond the month of December as was intended. So we're really excited about that to continue to offer this program. So continue to log in with us every month. Please tell your family, tell your friends if you have enjoyed this, because we've been enjoying it. We love when you all turn your videos on and we can see you. We have been getting people participating from different countries and different states around our country. So it's been such a good experience for us, and we hope that we are preparing a great experience for you and your families each month.
Yeah, so someone asked, is this every month? So yes, this is something that we are going to be doing monthly. So this is actually like our first month of like specifically doing the cooking class components. And we wanted to start off with the juicing recipe because I feel like this season is kind of a bridge, you know, between like summer and winter, you know, with fall and still doing juicing, but making it something nice and warm and cozy for Halloween and Thanksgiving and Christmas. So yeah. Oh, also a shameless.
I was hoping you were gonna remember.
A very, very shameless plug that I want to add in really quickly is if you like our shirts, our Black Girls with Green Thumb shirts, feel free to go to our website. It's www.blackgirlswithgreenthumbs.org. We have a link on there to our merchandise. We have t-shirts and hats and bags and anything that you can think of. If you guys like the message and you want to support our cause for the future, feel free to go pick up some items. We would love you. Love that.
We have hoodies coming soon, so we are transitioning into the colder weather. And we also have some fun items that we're going to debut at the end of the month. So in 2 weeks, we are preparing an online cooking class for couples. So we are doing a date night on Friday. And this can be couples. Look, it could be your partner, your romantic partner. It can be one of your girlfriends. You miss your girls, have a little in-home date night. But we are really excited about this online cooking class for couples. And as I said, we'll be debuting some new merch. So that is on Friday, October 30th. So save the date. We are going to start promoting it like Monday. So yeah, we're going to have our friends and our partners join us in the kitchen. So that should be fun.
And yeah, just guys, it's going to be a plant-based recipe. So, you know, we try to stick to the plant-based stuff. It's going to be very delicious. And just look out for it. I hope you guys tune in.
All right, well, that is our class. I hope we were able to answer all of your questions today. If you have any additional questions, feel free to hit us up on Instagram, Facebook, send us an email. We are on Instagram and Facebook everywhere at Black Girls with Green Thumbs. And if you make this recipe in the future, later this weekend for Thanksgiving, Christmas, please take a picture of it and add us in the picture or email it to us. Let us see these pictures, please.
And we're going to be posting probably on the Facebook and on our Instagram, our finished products also. And we'll be doing a little tasting too. I'll post it, let you know how my son liked it and how I liked it.
Yeah, I'm going to actually finish mine now.
Thank you guys so much. We really appreciate you guys tuning in with us today.
Have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.